The crystal chandelier shattered into 1,000 pieces as Amara's hand connected with Zainab's face. Everyone in the Okonkwo mansion froze. The billionaire's fiancée, the woman who ruled Lagos society with an iron fist and a cold smile, stood trembling before a 23-year-old maid who hadn't even flinched. Blood trickled from Zainab's lip, but her eyes held something that made Amara take a step back. Something that made the other servants gasp. Something that would change everything. "You have no idea what you've just done," Amara whispered, her voice shaking with rage and something else. Fear. Zainab wiped the blood from her mouth with the back of her hand and smiled. Not a nervous smile, not an apologetic smile, but a knowing smile that sent chills through everyone watching. "Actually," Zainab said quietly, her voice steady as stone, "I know exactly what I've done, and so do you." The room went silent. In the corner, the head housekeeper, Mrs. Adebayo, clutched her chest. The security guards shifted uncomfortably. Even the portraits on the walls seemed to lean in closer. Because in the 3 years since Amara Okonkwo had become engaged to billionaire tech mogul Chinonso Okonkwo, no one had ever stood up to her. Not the staff she fired on a whim, not the business partners she humiliated at dinner parties, not even Chinonso's own mother. Amara was beautiful, wealthy, and absolutely terrifying. She had a reputation for destroying anyone who crossed her. 3 maids had quit in the last month alone. 2 drivers refused to work weekends. The chef had developed an ulcer. Everyone feared her. Until today. Until Zainab arrived. But how did we get here? How did a simple village girl from Enugu end up facing down the most powerful woman in Lagos? Let me take you back to where it all began. 3 weeks earlier, when Zainab first walked through the golden gates of the Okonkwo estate with nothing but a worn suitcase and a secret that would unravel everything. 3 weeks ago, Zainab stepped off the bus at the edge of Victoria Island, her heart pounding in her chest. The address crumpled in her hand led her to the biggest house she'd ever seen. The Okonkwo mansion sprawled across 2 acres, with marble columns, manicured gardens, and gates that probably cost more than her entire village. She'd gotten the job through her aunt, who cleaned for a family that knew the Okonkwos. The pay was excellent, almost too excellent, but Zainab needed the money desperately. Her younger brother's school fees were due, and her mother's medication wasn't getting any cheaper. Mrs. Adebayo, the head housekeeper, met her at the servants' entrance. "You're the new girl from Enugu?" "Yes, Ma." Zainab kept her eyes respectfully lowered. "Good. Keep your head down. Do your work, and whatever you do, stay out of Madame Amara's way." Mrs. Adebayo's voice dropped to a whisper. "That woman has eyes everywhere and a memory like a trap. She never forgets a slight, and she never forgives." Zainab nodded, but something flickered in her eyes. Something Mrs. Adebayo was too busy to notice. The first week passed quietly. Zainab cleaned the guest rooms on the 3rd floor, far from the main living areas. She learned the mansion's rhythms. Mr. Chignonso left for work at 6 every morning and returned around 8 in the evening, always looking exhausted. Amara slept until noon, spent her afternoons at the spa or shopping, and her evenings hosting parties or attending events. They barely spoke to each other. Zainab also learned about Amara's reign of terror. The cook Ngozi had burned scars on her arm from when Amara threw hot soup at her for adding too much salt. The gardener Emeka walked with a limp after Amara reported him to Mr. Chignonso for a completely fabricated theft, getting him beaten by security. The previous maid before Zainab had left in tears after Amara accused her of stealing a necklace that later turned up in Amara's own jewelry box. No apology was ever given. "Why does Mr. Chignonso let her treat everyone like this?" Zainab asked Ngozi one evening while helping with dishes. Ngozi glanced around nervously. "He doesn't know half of it. She's sweet as honey when he's around, and the few times staff tried to complain, she made sure they were fired before they could finish talking. Plus, her father is Senator Musa. Very powerful man. Mr. Chignonso's business needs political connections." "So it's an arrangement," Zainab said softly. "Aren't most marriages?" Ngozi shrugged sadly, but Zainab watched, and she noticed things others didn't, like how Amara's hands shook when she thought no one was looking, how she made secretive phone calls in the garden at midnight, how she kept a locked drawer in her vanity that she checked obsessively. On her second week, Zainab was cleaning the main bedroom when she found something. A burner phone hidden behind a loose tile in the bathroom. Her instincts told her to put it back. Her curiosity made her turn it on. One message glowed on the screen. Tomorrow night, same place. Bring the documents. Once we have them, Chinonso loses everything. Zainab's blood ran cold. She quickly replaced the phone and finished cleaning, her mind racing. What documents? What plan? And who was Amara working with? That night, Zainab made a decision that would change everything. She would follow Amara. The next evening, wearing a dark hoodie borrowed from Amika, Zainab trailed Amara's car to a dimly lit restaurant in Lekki. Through the window, she watched Amara meet with a man in an expensive suit. They spoke intensely, Amara sliding a folder across the table. Zainab couldn't hear the words, but she saw enough. She saw Amara hand over what looked like business documents. She saw the man smile like a predator. She saw Amara accept a thick envelope in return. Betrayal. Amara was selling her own fiancé's secrets. But why? And to whom? Zainab returned to the mansion before Amara, her heart hammering. She had evidence now. But what could a maid do against someone as powerful as Amara? Who would believe her? Then she remembered something her grandmother used to say. The truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to stand firm when lies try to push it down. The confrontation happened on Monday morning. Zainab was cleaning the study when she found more documents, left carelessly on Amara's desk. Blueprints, patents, business plans, all belonging to Chinonso's company. All marked for transfer to a competitor. Amara walked in just as Zainab was photographing them with her phone. The slap came fast and hard, sending Zainab stumbling backward into the bookshelf. The chandelier above them swayed from the impact. And that's how we arrived at this moment, at this standoff, at this second where everything balanced on a knife's edge. Because Zainab wasn't just any maid, and this wasn't just any confrontation. This was the beginning of the end for Amara's carefully constructed empire of fear. But it was also the beginning of something else, something dangerous. What did you see? Amara hissed, grabbing Zainab's phone. Zainab's smile didn't waver. Everything. That's when the real fear entered Amara's eyes, because she realized too late that she'd finally met someone who wasn't afraid. Someone who knew her secrets, someone who couldn't be bought, threatened, or broken. And in that moment, the hunter became the hunted. Thank you so much for watching. If you're loving this story, please hit that subscribe button. My mom said I can't reach 1,000 subscribers, so let's prove her wrong together. Smash that like button and share this with your friends who love intense drama. What do you think Zainab will do next? Will she expose Amara, or does she have a bigger plan? Drop your predictions in the comments below. Amara's perfectly manicured nails dug into Zainab's phone as she scrolled through the photos. Her face went from red to pale to greenish in seconds. The evidence was damning. Crystal clear images of confidential documents, timestamps, everything. You little snake, Amara breathed. Do you have any idea what you've done? Do you know who I am? Who my father is? Senator Musa, Zainab said calmly, though her heart was racing. Yes, I know. I also know about your boyfriend, Tunda Bakare, the CEO of Tech Vision, the same company trying to steal your fiancé's patents. The color drained completely from Amara's face. Zainab continued, her voice steady. I know you've been feeding him company secrets for 6 months. I know you're planning to tank Chinonso's business deal with the government so Tech Vision can swoop in and take the contract. And I know you're only marrying Chinonso for his money while you help destroy him. Amara's hand shot out, grabbing Zainab by the collar. If you say one word, I will destroy you. I will have you arrested for theft. I will make sure you never work again. I will send men to your village. Your mother, your brother. Everyone you love will suffer. But Zainab didn't flinch. Instead, she reached into her uniform pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. Copies, she said simply, already sent to 3 different email addresses with instructions to release everything if something happens to me or my family. So go ahead. Try to hurt me. Try to silence me. See what happens. For the first time in her life, Amara had no response. She released Zainab and stumbled backward, her breathing shallow. "What do you want?" Amara finally asked. "Money? I can give you money. Name your price." "I don't want your money." "Then what?" Zainab straightened her uniform and looked Amara dead in the eye. "I want you to stop. Stop hurting people. Stop the betrayal. Walk away from Tunde and come clean to Mr. Chinonso." Amara laughed, but it sounded hollow. "You're insane. You're a maid. Nobody will believe you over me." "Maybe not," Zainab admitted, "but the documents will speak for themselves. And I don't think your father, the senator, would appreciate the scandal of his daughter being exposed as a corporate spy and a cheat. Think about his re-election campaign." That hit home. Amara's father's political career was everything to him and to her. "You have 24 hours to decide," Zainab said, walking toward the door. "Do the right thing, or I do it for you." She left Amara standing in the study, trembling with rage and fear. But Zainab wasn't naive. She knew Amara wouldn't just surrender, which is why she'd already taken precautions. The real question was whether Amara would try to run, fight, or do something even more dangerous. The answer came faster than expected. That evening, as Zainab was helping Ngozi prepare dinner, 2 police officers arrived at the mansion. Mrs. Adebayo rushed into the kitchen, her face panicked. "Zainab, the police are here. They're saying you stole Madame Amara's diamond bracelet, the one worth 3 million naira." Zainab's stomach dropped. Amara had made her move. The officers were professional but firm. "Miss Zainab Okafor, you're under arrest for theft. Please come with us." "I didn't steal anything," Zainab protested as they handcuffed her. Amara appeared at the top of the stairs, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. "I trusted her. I gave her a job when she had nothing, and this is how she repays me? By stealing from my personal collection?" The performance was Oscar-worthy. Even Mr. Chinonso, who just arrived home, looked shocked and disappointed. "Amara, are you certain?" he asked. "I found it in her room, darling, hidden in her suitcase. What else could it be?" Zainab was dragged toward the door, her mind racing. The flash drive. She needed to get word to someone about the flash drive. But who? As they passed Amika, the gardener, Zainab managed to whisper, "Call my aunt. Tell her Blue Butterfly." Amika's eyes widened slightly. He nodded once, barely perceptible. Blue Butterfly was their code. It meant emergency. It meant activate the backup plan. At the police station, Zainab was processed and thrown into a holding cell with 3 other women. The cell smelled of sweat and despair. One woman was crying softly in the corner. Another stared blankly at the wall. But Zainab used the time to think. Amara had been smart, but not smart enough. The bracelet in her suitcase was obviously planted. Any good lawyer could argue that. The question was whether she'd get a chance to see a lawyer before Amara made her next move. Hours passed. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Zainab dozed fitfully, her back against the cold concrete wall. Then around midnight, a guard appeared. "Zainab Okafor, you have a visitor." Zainab was led to a small interrogation room. Sitting there in an expensive suit was a woman she'd never seen before. Late 40s, sharp eyes, carrying a leather briefcase. "Miss Okafor, my name is Kioma Nwosu. I'm an attorney. Your aunt contacted me." Relief flooded through Zainab. "Thank God. Listen, I was framed. Amara Okonkwo planted that bracelet because I discovered she's been—" "I know," Kioma interrupted. "Your aunt gave me the flash drive. I've reviewed everything. We have more than enough to clear you and expose Miss Okonkwo, but there's something you need to know first." The attorney's expression grew serious. "I've been investigating Amara Okonkwo for 3 months on behalf of another client. This situation is bigger than you realize. Much bigger." Zainab leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "Amara isn't just stealing business secrets for her boyfriend. She's part of an organized network that targets wealthy men, extracts their assets and information, then moves on. Tunde Bakari isn't even her real boyfriend. He's her handler. They've done this to at least 7 other businessmen across Nigeria." The room spun. 7? 2 are bankrupt. 1 committed suicide. 4 others settled quietly to avoid scandal. Chinonso Okonkwo was supposed to be number 8. Chioma pulled out a folder. "Your evidence, combined with what we already have, can bring down the entire operation. But it will be dangerous. These people have connections everywhere. Police, judges, politicians. Then what do we do? Chioma smiled grimly. We do exactly what they don't expect. We go public. Tomorrow morning, I'm filing charges against Amara Okonkwo and Tunde Bakari for fraud, conspiracy, and corporate espionage. I'm also sending your evidence to 3 major newspapers and 2 television stations. By tomorrow afternoon, this story will be everywhere. Won't that put me in more danger? Actually, it's the safest move. Once this is public, they can't silence you without drawing more attention. The key is speed and visibility. Chioma gathered her papers. I'll have you out of here within the hour. The bracelet theft won't stick. We have security footage from the mansion showing Amara entering your room alone yesterday. She was careless. True to her word, Chioma had Zainab released by 2 in the morning. But instead of returning to the mansion, they went to Chioma's law office in Ikoyi, where Zainab would stay until morning. Get some rest, Chioma advised. Tomorrow's going to be intense. But Zainab couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Amara, about all the people she'd hurt, about how close the woman had come to destroying another life. At dawn, Chioma made her move. The charges were filed. The evidence was delivered to media outlets. And by 8 in the morning, the first news alerts started popping up on phones across Lagos. Breaking: Senator's daughter accused of corporate espionage network. Billionaire's fiancé allegedly part of elaborate fraud scheme. The story exploded. Within hours, it was trending on social media. News vans surrounded the Okonkwo mansion. Reporters camped outside Senator Musa's office. Amara's face was everywhere. And inside the mansion, Amara was in full panic mode. "Daddy, you have to fix this," she screamed into her phone. "Use your connections. Shut it down." But even Senator Musa couldn't stop a wildfire once it started burning. The evidence was too solid, too public, too damaging. By noon, Tunde Bakar was arrested at his office. By evening, 3 other members of their network had been taken into custody. The house of cards was collapsing, but Amara had one final play. Before you find out what that is, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching this from? Drop your country or city in the comments. I love knowing where our amazing viewers are tuning in from. Are you Team Zainab, or did you see this twist coming? Let me know below. Mr. Chinonso Okonkwo sat in his study, staring at the tablet in his hands. News articles, social media posts, leaked documents. His entire world was unraveling in real time, broadcast for millions to see. The woman he was supposed to marry in 3 weeks had betrayed him in the worst possible way. There was a soft knock at the door. "Sir?" It was Mrs. Adebayo. "Miss Zainab is here. She's asking to speak with you." Chinonso looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. "Let her in." Zainab entered cautiously. This was the first time she'd been in the study with Mr. Chinonso present. He looked nothing like the confident billionaire she'd seen in photographs. He looked broken. "Miss Okafor," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology, and probably my entire company." "You don't owe me anything, sir. I just did what was right." Chinonso gestured for her to sit. "Mrs. Adebayo told me everything. How you discovered the documents, how Amara had you arrested, how you'd been investigating her for weeks." He paused. "Why? You barely knew me. You could have just quit and walked away." Zainab sat down carefully. "Because I saw what she was doing to the staff, the way she treated people like they were nothing. My grandmother always said that evil only wins when good people stay silent. I couldn't stay silent." "Your grandmother sounds wise." "She was. She died 2 years ago. But her words stayed with me." They sat in silence for a moment. Outside, camera flashes lit up the windows. The media circus wasn't dying down. "I need to know something," Chinonso said suddenly. "Did I really not see it? Was I that blind? Everyone talks about how smart I am in business. But I couldn't see that the woman I was going to marry was destroying me from the inside." Zainab chose her words carefully. "She was good at hiding it, sir. She showed you exactly what you wanted to see. That's what manipulators do. I should have listened to my mother. She never liked Amara. Said there was something cold behind her eyes." He laughed bitterly. "I thought Mom was just being difficult. Turned out she was the only one seeing clearly." Before Zainab could respond, the study door burst open. Amara stood there, her designer clothes wrinkled, her makeup smeared, her hair wild. She looked like a completely different person. Gone was the polished, terrifying woman who had ruled this mansion. In her place was something desperate and dangerous. "Shinonso, please," she gasped. "You have to listen to me. It's not what it looks like. That maid, she set me up. She forged those documents." Two security guards appeared behind her. "Sir, she forced her way past us." Shinonso stood slowly. "It's all right. Let her speak." Amara rushed forward, grabbing his hands. "Baby, I love you. Everything I did was for us. Tunde was blackmailing me. He had photos of me from years ago before we met. Compromising photos. He threatened to release them unless I helped him. I was trying to protect your reputation." It was a good lie. Delivered with tears and trembling hands. For a moment, Zainab saw Chinonso waver. "If that's true," Zainab said quietly, "then why did the bank records show you received over 50 million naira in payments from offshore accounts linked to Tunde over the past 6 months?" Amara's head whipped toward her. "You have no proof of that." "Actually, we do." Chioma Nwosu stepped into the room, holding another folder. "Financial Crimes Unit traced everything this afternoon. The money trail is crystal clear. Miss Okonkwo, you weren't being blackmailed. You were being paid. Very well paid." Amara's facade cracked completely. The tears dried up. The desperate girlfriend vanished. What remained was the cold, calculating woman Zainab had confronted days ago. "Fine," Amara said, her voice turning to ice. "You want the truth? Here it is. Yes, I was working with Tunde. Yes, I was going to take everything from you, Chinonso. You know why? Because men like you disgust me. You think your money makes you special? You think building apps and tech companies makes you better than everyone else?" "Amara, stop," Chinonso said quietly, but she couldn't stop. Years of hidden resentment came pouring out. "My father sold me to you like cattle. Marry the tech billionaire, Amara. Secure the family's political connections, Amara. Nobody asked what I wanted. Nobody cared that I loved someone else. So yes, I decided to take what I could and leave you with nothing. You and every other man who thinks women are just tools for their advancement." The room fell silent. Even the security guards looked uncomfortable. Kioma spoke first. "Miss Okonkwo, you do understand you're confessing to multiple felonies in front of witnesses?" Amara laughed. "You think I care anymore? It's over. My father's political career is finished. Tunde's in custody. The money's frozen. I have nothing left to lose." She turned to Zainab. "Except the satisfaction of watching you suffer." In one swift motion, Amara pulled a small pistol from her purse. Everyone froze. "Amara, no!" Chinonso shouted. But the gun wasn't pointed at him. It was pointed directly at Zainab. "You ruined everything," Amara said, her hand steady. "A stupid village girl playing hero. You should have minded your business." Zainab's heart hammered, but she kept her voice calm. "Shooting me won't fix anything. It'll only make things worse. I don't care about worse. I care about revenge." The security guards started moving, but Amara swung the gun toward them. "Stay back! Everyone stay back, or I swear I'll shoot her." Kioma stepped forward slowly, hands raised. "Miss Okonkwo, think about what you're doing. Right now, you're looking at fraud charges, maybe 5 to 7 years if you cooperate. But if you pull that trigger, it's attempted murder. You'll spend the rest of your life in prison." "I told you I don't care anymore." But Zainab saw something the others didn't. Amara's hand was shaking, not from fear, from hesitation. Because despite everything, despite the lies and the betrayal and the cruelty, Amara wasn't a killer. She was a hurt, angry woman who'd made terrible choices. "You do care," Zainab said softly. "If you didn't care, you wouldn't be shaking. You wouldn't have tears in your eyes. You're not evil, Amara. You're just broken." "Shut up. You don't know anything about me. I know your mother died when you were 12. I know your father ignored you unless you were being useful to his career. I know Tunde was your first love, and your father forced you apart because Tunde wasn't rich or connected enough." Zainab took a small step forward. "I know you've been hurting for a long time, and you turned that hurt into anger at everyone around you." Amara's hand lowered slightly. "How do you know about my mother?" Because I asked. Because I didn't just investigate your crimes. I investigated you. And I saw someone who never learned to deal with pain. So she spread it to others instead. Tears streamed down Amara's face. She was everything to me. When she died, my father blamed me. Said if I'd been better, smarter, more useful, she wouldn't have gotten sick from stress. He blamed me for killing her. The gun lowered more. That's not true, Zainab said gently. And you know it. But you've spent so long believing his lies that you started acting like the villain he accused you of being. You don't have to keep being that person. For a long moment, no one breathed. Then slowly, Amara's hand dropped completely. The gun clattered to the floor. She collapsed to her knees, sobbing. The security guards immediately secured the weapon. Kioma called the police. Chinyonso just stood there, watching his former fiancée break down completely. But Zainab knelt beside Amara. You need help, real help, not prison, not punishment, therapy, treatment, a chance to heal. Amara looked at her through tears. Why are you being kind to me? After everything I did? Because someone was kind to me once when I needed it most, and because I believe people can change if they really want to. 20 minutes later, the police arrived. Amara was taken into custody, but Kioma had already begun working on a plea deal that included mandatory psychological treatment. It wasn't justice in the traditional sense, but Zainab believed it was the right thing. As the squad cars pulled away, Chinonso approached Zainab on the mansion steps. You're remarkable, you know that? He said. Zainab shrugged. I just did what felt right. No, most people would have wanted revenge. You offered compassion instead. He paused. I have a proposition for you. I need someone I can trust on my staff. Someone with integrity. How would you feel about becoming my executive assistant? Proper salary, benefits, the works. Zainab's eyes widened. Sir, I'm just a maid. I have no experience in business. You took down a corporate espionage ring with nothing but courage and a phone camera. I think you're qualified. He smiled. Besides, you're already a better judge of character than I am. Zainab laughed. Can I think about it? Of course, take all the time you need. As she walked back inside, Mrs. Adebayo grabbed her in a tight hug. You saved us all, child. All of us. Ngozi, Emeka, and the other staff gathered around, thanking her, crying, celebrating. For the first time in years, the Okonkwo mansion felt like a home instead of a prison. But the story wasn't over yet. Not quite. If you're loving this story, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this message about courage and forgiveness. What do you think about Zainab's decision to show Amara compassion? Was she right, or should Amara face harsher consequences? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe because next week reveals something about Zainab that will blow your mind. There's a reason she was so fearless, and it's not what you think. See you in the next one. 3 days after Amara's arrest, life at the Okonkwo mansion had started to settle into a new rhythm. The media circus had moved on to other scandals. The staff walked around without fear for the first time in years, and Zainab was still processing everything that had happened. She was folding laundry in her room when Mrs. Adebayo knocked on the door. Zainab, there's someone here to see you. A man. Says he's your uncle. Zainab's hands froze mid-fold. My uncle. That's what he said. He's waiting in the visitor's parlor. Zainab's heart began to race, but not with excitement, with dread, because she didn't have an uncle. At least, not one who would visit her here. She made her way to the parlor slowly, her mind racing through possibilities. When she pushed open the door, a tall man in his 50s stood by the window, his back to her. He wore an expensive abaya and carried himself with authority. You wanted to see me, Zainab said carefully. The man turned around and Zainab's breath caught. She knew that face. She'd seen it in old photographs hidden in her mother's drawer. Photographs her mother thought she'd never found. Hello, Zainab, the man said softly. I suppose I should introduce myself properly. My name is Chief Adebola Okafor, and I'm not your uncle. I'm your father. The room tilted. Zainab grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. That's impossible. My father died before I was born. My mother told me. Your mother told you what she thought was best. Chief Adebola moved closer, but kept his distance respectfully. I didn't die, Zainab. I left. and I've regretted it every day for 23 years. Zainab's mind reeled. Why are you here? Why now? Because I saw you on the news. When the Amara Okonkwo story broke, your face was everywhere, and I recognized you immediately. You have your mother's eyes, but you have my stubbornness. He smiled sadly. I've been watching from afar for years, sending money anonymously to help with your brother's school fees, your mother's medical bills. But seeing what you did, how brave you were, I realized I couldn't hide anymore. You're the one who's been sending money? Zainab's voice cracked. We thought it was a church charity. That was the arrangement I made with your aunt. She's the only one who knew I was alive. Chief Adebola sat down heavily. I need to explain everything. You deserve the truth. Zainab sat across from him, her emotions a storm. Anger, confusion, curiosity, all fighting for dominance. 24 years ago, I was a young lawyer working in Lagos, he began. I met your mother at a wedding. She was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. We fell in love quickly. Too quickly. When she got pregnant with you, I panicked. I was engaged to someone else, a woman from a wealthy family. My parents had arranged it, and breaking it off would have destroyed my career prospects. So you abandoned her, Zainab said coldly. Yes, and it's the greatest shame of my life. Chief Adebola's voice broke. I went through with the arranged marriage, built a successful law practice, had 3 other children, but I never forgot your mother, never stopped thinking about you. When I finally gathered the courage to go back to Enugu 5 years ago, I learned she told you I was dead, and I understood why. It was easier than explaining I was a coward. Does your wife know about me? She died 3 years ago. Cancer. And my other children are grown now, with their own lives. I'm alone, Zainab. Alone with my regrets and my money and my reputation. That means nothing because I abandoned my firstborn child. Zainab felt tears burning her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. What do you want from me? Nothing. I want to give you something. Everything I should have given you from the beginning. He pulled an envelope from his agbada. This contains documents. Adoption papers making you legally my heir. Access to your trust fund. I've been setting aside money for you since you were born. It's substantial. I don't want your money. I know. That's why I knew you were truly my daughter the moment I saw you on the news. You stood up to power without asking for anything in return, just like I should have done 23 years ago. He placed the envelope on the table between them. Whether you take this or not, whether you ever speak to me again or not, I need you to know something. Watching you expose that woman, watching you choose compassion over revenge, I felt proud for the first time in decades. Proud that my blood runs in your veins, even if I did nothing to deserve that honor. Zainab stared at the envelope. Her entire life, she'd imagined her father as a hero who died tragically. Then she'd learned to live without that fantasy. And now he was here, real and flawed and full of regrets. I need time, she finally said. Of course. Take all the time you need. Chief Adebola stood to leave, then paused. One more thing. The reason you were so brave with Amara Okonkwo? It's not just your grandmother's wisdom. It's in your blood. Your great-grandfather, my grandfather, was one of the lawyers who fought against colonial rule in Nigeria. He stood up to the British government when it could have gotten him killed. Your courage isn't an accident, Zainab. It's your inheritance. After he left, Zainab sat alone in the parlor for a long time. So many emotions crashed through her. She thought about her mother, carrying the weight of that secret for over 2 decades. She thought about her childhood, wondering what might have been different if her father had stayed. But mostly she thought about choices. Her father had made a terrible choice that hurt people. Amara had made terrible choices that hurt people. But they were still people, still capable of regret, of change, of seeking redemption. Mrs. Adebayo found her an hour later, still sitting in the darkening room. Are you all right, child? I don't know, Zainab admitted. My whole life just changed again. Life has a way of doing that. Mrs. Adebayo sat beside her. When I was your age, I discovered my husband had another family in Ibadan. 3 children I knew nothing about. I thought my world was ending. What did you do? I had a choice. I could let the betrayal poison me, or I could decide what kind of person I wanted to be going forward. I chose to raise my children with love, work hard, and not let his mistakes define my story. She patted Zainab's hand. You have the same choice now. Your father's abandonment is his story. What you do next is yours. Those words settled something in Zainab's heart. She picked up the envelope and opened it. Inside were documents, bank statements, and a handwritten letter. She read the letter slowly, tears finally falling as she absorbed her father's words of apology, explanation, and hope for a future relationship. At the bottom, he'd written, I can't change the past, but if you'll let me, I'd like to be part of your future. Not as someone trying to buy your forgiveness, but as a father finally ready to act like one. Zainab folded the letter carefully and made a decision. The next morning, she called the number Chief Adebola had left. He answered on the first ring. I'm willing to talk, Zainab said. Not because I forgive you yet, but because I want to understand. And maybe eventually we can build something new. She heard him crying on the other end of the line. Thank you. Thank you, Zainab. They arranged to meet for lunch the following week. Small steps, careful steps, but steps forward nonetheless. That afternoon, Zainab had another meeting. Chinonso had asked her to join him in his office. I've been thinking about your skills, he said when she arrived. You're observant, brave, and you have incredible instincts for reading people and situations. I don't just need an executive assistant. I need a head of security and internal affairs. Someone who can make sure nothing like the Amar situation ever happens again. Sir, I'm not qualified for that. You exposed a corporate espionage ring with no training and minimal resources. I'd say you're overqualified. He slid a contract across the desk. The salary is here. It's more than fair. You'd also get housing, health insurance for you and your family, and an education stipend if you want to pursue further training. Zainab looked at the number and almost choked. It was more money than her mother made in 5 years. There's something else, Chinonso continued. Amara's plea deal was approved. She'll spend 2 years in a psychiatric facility, then 3 years probation with mandatory continued therapy. Your testimony about her childhood trauma was a major factor in the judge's decision. Good, Zainab said softly. She needs help, not just punishment. That's exactly why I want you in this position. You see people clearly, but you don't dehumanize them. He leaned forward. So what do you say? Will you help me build something better here? Zainab thought about her grandmother's words, about standing firm for truth, about her great-grandfather fighting for justice, about the choices that define us. Yes, she said, I'll do it. Chinonso smiled broadly. Excellent. You start Monday. And Zainab, thank you for everything. As she left his office, Zainab felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope, real, solid hope for the future. But that evening, as she was packing her few belongings to move into the better quarters Chinonso had arranged, her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Heavy breathing on the other end. Then a distorted voice. You think you won? You think this is over? Amara was just one piece. We're everywhere. And we don't forget. The line went dead. Zainab's blood ran cold. Kioma had mentioned a network. Other people involved in the scheme. People who weren't in custody yet. She immediately called Kioma. I just got a threatening call. From what number? Kioma's voice was sharp, alert. Zainab read it off. She heard typing in the background. Burner phone. Untraceable. But this is good information. It means we're getting close to the others. They're scared. Kioma paused. Zainab, I need you to be extra careful. These people are dangerous. They've already lost millions because of the exposure. They might try to retaliate. Should I go to the police? I'll handle it. In the meantime, stay close to the mansion. Chinonso has excellent security. You're safer there than anywhere else. After hanging up, Zainab sat on her bed, her mind racing. The victory she'd felt moments ago now seemed fragile. There were still people out there who wanted revenge. Still dangers lurking in the shadows. But she wasn't the same frightened village girl who'd arrived at this mansion weeks ago. She'd faced down Amara Okonkwo. She'd confronted her absent father. She'd made choices that saved lives and exposed corruption. Whatever came next, she would face it. Not with fear, but with the courage her great-grandfather had passed down through generations. The courage to stand firm when lies tried to push the truth down. Okay, before we head into the final chapter, I need to hear from you. Have you ever had to stand up to someone powerful, even when you were scared? What would you do if you got a threatening call like Zainab just did? Drop your answers in the comments. And please, if you're enjoying this story, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. My mom really doesn't think I can hit 1,000 subscribers, so let's prove her wrong together. Turn on those notifications too, because the final chapter is going to reveal who's behind that threatening call, and trust me, you won't see it coming. Share this with your friends who love intense drama. Zainab didn't sleep that night. Every shadow seemed threatening. Every sound made her jump. By dawn, exhaustion weighed heavy on her shoulders, but her mind was still racing. She was heading to the kitchen for coffee when she noticed something strange. The front gate security guard, Bello, wasn't at his post. In his place was someone she'd never seen before. A younger man, mid-30s, with cold eyes that tracked her movement across the compound. Her instincts screamed danger. Zainab quickly changed direction, heading back inside. She pulled out her phone to call Kioma, but before she could dial, the power went out. The entire mansion plunged into darkness, even though the sun was barely rising. Generator failure, or something worse. She heard footsteps in the hallway. Multiple people, moving with purpose. Zainab's heart hammered as she slipped into the nearest room, the library. She locked the door and pushed a heavy bookshelf against it. Her phone showed no signal. The mansion's cell jammer had been activated. Someone had disabled the security systems from the inside. This wasn't random. This was coordinated. Through the window, she saw 3 black SUVs parked in the circular driveway. Men in dark clothes were stationed at every exit. She counted at least 8 of them. Then she heard Shinonso's voice, loud and angry, coming from downstairs. "Who are you? What do you want?" A woman's voice responded, smooth and cold. "Mr. Okonkwo, please don't make this difficult. We're just here for the girl." Zainab's blood froze. They were here for her. She heard Mrs. Adebayo protesting, Ngozi crying, furniture being overturned. The intruders were searching the mansion room by room. Zainab looked around desperately. The library had only one exit. She was trapped. But then she remembered something Emeka had mentioned weeks ago. The old servants' passages built into the mansion when it was constructed in the 1970s. Hidden corridors that the original architect had included for discreet service. She ran her hands along the wall panels until she found it. A seam, barely visible. She pressed, and a section of the wall clicked open, revealing a narrow passageway thick with dust and cobwebs. Without hesitation, Zainab slipped inside and pulled the panel shut behind her, just as she heard the library door handle rattle. The passage was pitch black. She used her phone's dim flashlight, careful to keep the brightness low. The corridor twisted and turned, leading down toward the basement level. Zainab moved as quietly as possible, her heart pounding so loud she was sure someone would hear it. Behind her, she heard voices. "Check that wall. There's got to be a hidden passage." They knew about the corridors. These people had studied the mansion's blueprints. Zainab moved faster, praying the old wooden floor wouldn't creak and give her away. The passage opened into what looked like an old wine cellar, long abandoned. She was about to move toward the exit when she heard breathing. Someone else was in the cellar. Zainab froze, her phone light extinguished. In the darkness, she heard shuffling, then a familiar voice whispered, "Zainab, is that you?" "Emeka." The gardener emerged from behind a rack of dusty wine bottles. "Thank God. I saw those men coming and hid. What's happening?" "They're here for me. We need to get out and call for help. The phones don't work. They've jammed everything." Emeka's voice trembled. "I heard them talking. Their boss is upstairs with Mr. Shinonso." "Who's their boss?" "I don't know, but she said something about teaching you a lesson about interfering in family business." Family business? Zainab's mind raced. Then it clicked. Amar had mentioned a network. Other wealthy families involved in the scheme. Families who'd lost money when the operation was exposed. This wasn't just revenge. This was damage control. They wanted to silence her before she could identify anyone else. "There's an old service exit behind the boiler room," Emeka whispered. "It leads to the back of the property, near the wall. If we can get there, we can climb over and get help." They moved through the basement. Staying low and quiet, Zainab could hear footsteps above them, voices shouting orders. The intruders were tearing the mansion apart. They reached the boiler room, and Emeka pointed to a rusted metal door. That's it, but it's probably locked. Zainab tried the handle. It didn't budge. We need something to break it open. Emeka grabbed a heavy pipe wrench from a tool bench. Together, they worked on the door's old hinges. The sound of metal on metal seemed impossibly loud in the confined space. Hurry, Zainab urged. The first hinge gave way, then the second. They were about to tackle the lock when the boiler room door burst open. The woman from upstairs stood there, flanked by two armed men. She was elegant, mid-50s, wearing a designer suit even at this early hour. But her eyes were ruthless. Miss Okafor, she said calmly, you've caused quite a bit of trouble for some very important people. Zainab stepped in front of Emeka protectively. Who are you? My name is Adaeze Okonkwo, Chinyonso's aunt, his late father's sister. She smiled coldly. The one who actually built this family's fortune while my brother got all the credit. The one who's been running the real business behind the scenes for 30 years. Zainab's mind reeled. You're part of the network? My dear, I created the network. Amara was just an employee, a useful tool. But like all tools, she became careless and got caught. Adaeze moved closer. When I heard she'd been exposed, I knew it was only a matter of time before someone traced the operation back to me. So I've been cleaning up loose ends. The other businessmen who were targeted, Zainab said slowly. The ones who went bankrupt or worse. That was all you? Business is war, Miss Okafor. And in war, there are casualties. Adaze's expression didn't change. I actually admire what you did with Amara. It was clever, bold, but you should have stopped there. Instead, you gave evidence to that lawyer. Evidence that includes financial records pointing to offshore accounts. My offshore accounts. So you're going to kill me? Don't be dramatic. I'm going to make you disappear. There's a difference. You'll be taken somewhere remote, somewhere you can't cause any more problems. By the time anyone finds you, if they ever do, my tracks will be completely covered. Emeka suddenly lunged forward with the wrench, but one of the armed men caught him easily, slamming him against the wall. Emeka crumpled to the ground, dazed. Don't hurt him, Zainab shouted. He's not part of this. Then come quietly. Make this easy on everyone. Zainab's mind raced. Chioma knew about the threat. The police would eventually realize something was wrong, but eventually might be too late. She needed to stall. Why did you involve your own nephew? Zainab asked. Why target Chinonso? Adaeze laughed. You think this was about targeting him? My dear nephew was collateral damage. Amara's assignment was to extract his company's AI patents, technology worth billions. But Chinonso started becoming suspicious, pulling away from the wedding plans. We had to accelerate the timeline. That's when Amara got sloppy. But he's your family. Family is just another resource, Miss Okafor. Something to be leveraged when useful, discarded when not. Adaeze gestured to her men. Enough talking. Take her. The men moved forward. Zainab backed against the boiler, her hand brushing against something hot. The emergency steam release valve. In her grandmother's village, Zainab had learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was acting despite being terrified. She grabbed the valve handle and yanked it hard. Steam exploded into the room with a deafening hiss. Scalding vapor filled the air, and everyone stumbled backward, blinded and choking. Zainab grabbed Emeka and pulled him toward the broken door. Together, they burst through into the dawn air. Behind them, Adaeze was screaming orders, but the steam had bought them precious seconds. They ran toward the back wall. It was 10 feet high, topped with decorative spikes, impossible to climb quickly. The tree! Emeka pointed to an old mango tree with branches overhanging the wall. They scrambled up just as the armed men burst from the house. Gunshots cracked through the air. Bullets pinged off the wall as Zainab and Emeka threw themselves over the top, landing hard on the other side in a narrow alley. Zainab's ankle screamed in pain, probably sprained, but adrenaline kept her moving. They ran toward the main road, where early morning traffic was just beginning. Help! Zainab screamed at passing cars. Please, someone help us! Most drivers ignored them, probably thinking they were thieves or troublemakers. But then a taxi screeched to a stop. The window rolled down, revealing a middle-aged woman driver. "Get in, quickly!" They dove into the back seat. "Drive! Just drive!" The taxi took off as the armed men reached the road. But in Lagos traffic, the vehicle quickly got swallowed into the chaos of honking cars and Okada motorcycles. "Where to?" the driver asked, eyes wide. "Police station, the closest one." 10 minutes later, they stumbled into the Ikoyi police station. The officer at the desk looked at them skeptically until Zainab gasped out, "I'm Zainab Okafor, the one from the news, the Amara Okonkwo case. We're being attacked." The officer's expression changed instantly. Within minutes, they were surrounded by police, and Kioma arrived with a team of lawyers and federal agents. "We've been tracking Adazi Okonkwo for 6 months," a EFCC agent explained. "Your evidence gave us the final pieces. We were planning a raid for next week, but it looks like she panicked and moved first." A full tactical team descended on the mansion. Adaze tried to flee, but was caught at the airport with a private jet fueled and ready. Her entire network was rolled up within 48 hours. 12 arrests across 4 states, hundreds of millions in assets frozen. In the chaos, Chinonso was found locked in his own panic room, shaken but unharmed. His aunt had planned to force him to sign over company control before disposing of him. "She's really been behind everything this whole time?" he asked Zainab later, as they both sat in the police station giving statements. "Apparently, Amara was just a pawn. Your aunt's been manipulating powerful men and stealing their wealth for 3 decades. Chinonso shook his head in disbelief. "My father used to say his sister was the smartest person he knew. I guess he was right, just not in a good way." The following weeks were a whirlwind. Trials, media attention, security upgrades at the mansion. Zainab officially started her new position as head of security and internal affairs, with a mandate to completely overhaul the household systems. She also began meeting regularly with Chief Adebola, her father. It wasn't easy. There were tears, arguments, and long silences. But slowly, carefully, they were building something. Not the relationship they should have had, but the one they could have now. "Your grandmother would be proud of you," Chief Adebola told her during one of their lunches. "She always believed in standing up for truth, no matter the cost." "I learned from the best," Zainab replied, and for the first time she met her grandmother, her great-grandfather, and yes, even the father who was trying to be better. Amara, still in her psychiatric facility, sent a letter through Kioma. In it, she thanked Zainab for showing her mercy and said she was working hard in therapy to understand and heal from her trauma. It would be a long road, but she was walking it. 3 months after that terrifying morning, Zainab stood in the mansion's newly renovated security center, watching monitors that showed every corner of the property. Mrs. Adebayo brought her tea. "You've changed this place," the older woman said. "Not just the security, the whole feel of it. People smile now. They're not afraid." "That was the goal," Zainab said. "Fear shouldn't be the foundation of anything. Not a home, not a business, not a relationship. Your grandmother definitely raised you right." Zainab smiled, thinking of the woman who taught her that truth doesn't need to shout, it just needs to stand firm. The woman whose wisdom had carried her through the darkest moments. That evening, as Zainab was leaving work, she found Chinonso waiting by her car. "I wanted to thank you," he said. "Properly, you saved my life. Probably several times over." "Just doing my job, sir." "Chinonso, please, after everything, I think we can drop the formalities." He smiled. "Also, I wanted to give you this." He handed her an envelope. Inside was a scholarship offer to a prestigious security management program in South Africa, fully paid, with a guarantee that her job would be waiting when she finished. "You have the instincts and the courage," Chinonso said. "Now get the formal training to match. Become the best at what you do." Zainab felt tears prickling her eyes. "Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for being exactly who you are. The world needs more people like you, Zainab Okafor. People who see injustice and can't stay silent. People who choose compassion even when revenge would be easier. People who stand firm." As she drove home that night through Lagos traffic, Zainab thought about the journey that had brought her here, from a small village in Enugu to this moment. From a frightened girl with a secret to a woman who'd faced down corrupt power and won. She thought about Amara, broken but healing. About Adayezi, brilliant but twisted by greed. About her father, flawed but trying. About Chinonso, learning to see the people around him as humans, not resources. Everyone was fighting their own battles. Everyone was making choices that would define them. And Zainab? She chose truth. She chose courage. She chose to stand firm when lies tried to push her down. Just like her grandmother taught her. Just like her great-grandfather before her. Just like she would teach others someday. Because that's what heroes do. Not by being perfect, but by being present. By showing up. By refusing to let fear or power or corruption have the final word. The billionaire's fiancée had been feared by everyone. But it took a simple maid to make a difference. Not because she was special or superhuman, but because she remembered one simple truth. Every person has power. The question is what you choose to do with it. Zainab chose to use hers for good, and that made all the difference. Wow, what a journey this has been. If you made it all the way to the end, you're absolutely amazing. This story shows us that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about doing what's right even when you're terrified. It's about standing up for truth even when power tries to silence you. And it's about choosing compassion over revenge, even when revenge feels justified. What was your favorite moment in this story? Did Zainab make the right choices? Would you have done anything differently? Drop all your thoughts in the comments below. I love reading every single one. And listen, if this story touched your heart, inspired you, or just kept you on the edge of your seat, please hit that subscribe button. My mom really doesn't believe I can reach 1,000 subscribers, so let's prove her wrong together. Smash that like button, share this video with your friends, family, and anyone who loves powerful stories about courage and redemption. Turn on those notifications so you never miss our next story. We have more amazing African folktales coming your way, each one filled with suspense, drama, and powerful life lessons. Remember, you have more power than you think. Use it wisely, use it for good, and never let fear stop you from standing up for what's right. Until next time, stay courageous, stay kind, and keep standing firm. This is your storyteller, and I'll see you in the next video.